July.
Up the meeting to order, we'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay, so special meeting called, the intent of the special meeting is to get the declaration of the trustee vacancy noticed and out there so that we can get that process underway and hopefully be able to appoint a trustee to that vacant position by the June meeting. Last week, Tuesday, the calendar committee was able to put together a draft of the 2023-2024 calendar. We discussed it briefly at the negotiations meeting last week. And so with this meeting being put in here, I thought it was an opportunity to kind of break the ice and get some discussion on that calendar. So that's what that is about. Adding that in tonight, we're not going to make an approval, take any action on that calendar. Simply an opportunity to have a brief discussion, like I said, kind of break the ice on that topic. Hopefully with negotiations, we'll wrap that portion up and be able to approve both the certified collective bargaining agreement, classified bargaining agreement, and the calendar at the June meeting. That is the goal. So with that, everybody has had a brief opportunity to at least get a glance at that drafted calendar since last week. And I guess I'll kind of let if Christina has any comments to start the discussion with.
No, honestly, just we added 23 minutes to the day and put it right at just over 1,080, which is what our requirement is. We do have to calculate the day by 4th and 5th. So it does put other grades, including high school, over in their required hours. But because we're a K12 district and because of busing, it's kind of difficult to have multiple times for release times and start times and so forth. So, so that's how that stands there. And you can see at the bottom of the calendar, it does state what the Teachers' Day will be, parent-teacher conferences, and then PLC is those yellow times. We are maxed out on our PIR time. You're allowed for 7 of them. And so the PLC time is more for completing grades, doing meetings, grade level meetings, things like that, just working together as a team.
Brad, I don't know if you had anything from your age group.
No, I just, I guess for people that haven't been through this discussion before, in a K-12 district, coming up with the calendar is one of the toughest tasks that you have. Each age group, and I guess each school, when you kind of look at K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and then 9, 12, has kind of a different set of needs and different things that they want to address that are specific to the age group they work with. And I was impressed with the people that came up with this calendar, but it was probably the quickest calendar meeting we ever had. And I felt like at least the meeting I attended was very much a compromise between a lot of proposals that have been made from different grade levels and different areas. And I was very impressed with how quickly people were able to look at it and go, yeah, I think that will serve the needs of each of our groups, unless they've brought some other concerns. You know, we had representatives from each school there and each level of the school. And the feedback we got on that specific day was very positive, I felt.
Very good. Ms. Hedlund.
Thank you. I just want to say, yes, I appreciate everyone's work. We had quite a few calendars floating around out there at one point, so that gave us a little bit of angst, but everyone was able to come together and come to consensus quickly. As Mr. Rock said, I appreciate Christina likes to calculate all of the numbers, so I appreciate her doing the due diligence to double check and make sure we were meeting all the required deadlines or requirements for hours. So and also keeping the staff at the same amount of time. So even though we're going to a 4-day schedule, the teachers will be teaching the same amount that they are currently this year, for example. So that's why we added those PLC days, and great opportunity for professional development, and even partnering with some of our neighbor districts that are going to be doing professional development on Fridays. So that will be pretty cool. We got to talk about some of those opportunities at my last regional superintendent's meeting. Manhattan, for example, is doing CPI training on one of those days, and we need CPI training for our staff, also that crisis prevention intervention training. So there's one where we could cut the cost and share a trainer and get together for example. So I think that those give good opportunities. I also think that the staff was able to compromise on the length of the day, try to keep it from getting too long for those younger students. And one of my only concerns was starting too early in August. Some of the calendars I've seen with 4-day week start in early to mid-August, and we don't have AC in the high school, middle school. The classrooms are hot in August, so I didn't want to start too early in August. That was really my only big concern. So I think they did a great job.
Sherry, I know you just kind of walked in.
I'm here, sorry.
Did high school have any thoughts or comments specific to this calendar proposal?
Hearing Susie's tail end, it seems everybody worked really hard on it. I know they were working collaboratively with all the different grade levels, and when we all came together, it seemed like we were able to balance and ebb and flow. I know Jeremy Bartlett did a good job of grabbing the best pieces of a lot of different calendars, and then a lot of it meshed with what the admin team had also looked at. So we were actually, by the time we had our calendar meeting, we were fairly close to something that was workable for everybody, just a few minor tweaks here and there. And so, yeah, we feel pretty good about it. We feel good about it with activities and those things as well. And, you know, we did take into consideration the couple of days, like obviously homecoming week's a big deal. We didn't want to opt out everybody out of homecoming because we're not in school or something. You know, we wanted to try to make that a good full week, even for the elementary. We like to keep everybody all included in that. And then that big tournament wrestling day in January, where we've had the issues before, where if we have that class BC duels here, there is just no way we can have a lot of school, at least at the high. We can't have any school at the high school. So that actually, it all kind of just melded together, and everybody kept all those things in mind. So I feel like it's good.
Athletics, I know there's been a little comment there, and most people probably don't realize that, the athletic schedules have already been set for next year, way earlier than, the 4-day week discussion took off.
Yes.
So there's going to be some things in the coming year that probably don't necessarily mesh, because that wasn't a thought and a plan when those athletic schedules were set.
Yes, I know Mr. Odell is going to try to flex as much as he can to fit whatever, we go with and adopt with here, but definitely, there will definitely a transitional year. And then when we go into whatever schedule we have next year, then obviously he can go into those scheduling meetings with that, perception. Yeah, with that viewpoint. So we'll do the best we can.
Okay. I guess the only other comments, I don't do the Facebook thing, but I hear things, and I know there was some misunderstanding maybe a little bit on some of the Fridays that they go to school. And, the thing we're striving to achieve is a 4-day school week. So if we have a Monday holiday, then they do go to school on Friday, because they still need the 4 days of school. So I know there was a little confusion on, well, why do they go this Friday and not that? But that anytime there's a Monday holiday, then the kids go to school on Fridays.
There is one exception in December.
And I guess, to me, it's important to clarify too, that, you know, a lot of that is the result of trying to keep what is traditionally something fairly close as traditionally been our start and end dates. You know, and we could certainly do some different things, but we would definitely have to extend the school year out into, you know, past the beginning of June or whatever.
I think somebody obviously built a wall somewhere along the line at the end of May and said,
Yeah.
do not cross.
And it does, and I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of those, I guess, traditions that it really boxes us in and has created some problems over the years, not just with this, but even with more traditional calendar.
Any other board questions, input?
I guess I'm just looking at January and February. Why is the PLC day on Monday?
Because that's Martin Luther King Day, and we've usually had our PIR day that day. But we bumped our PRs in February and March. But it's been, apparently Mr. Rock can attest to the history of having school on that day and what it's done to us. It's not
popular for
Not
us
popular
to have school on that day.
I just think, I mean, I personally think it's the appropriate thing to do to recognize that day and to do that. And,
It's a common holiday for.
yeah, it
It's a
is.
state holiday.
Not only that it's, you know, appropriate to observe that day, I believe, but also with so many of our parents and families being state employees or people that have that day off anyway. So I think it's kind of a twofold reason to have it.
I guess I was kind of wondering why wasn't it done the same way in February with that Monday holiday? Yeah.
President's Day, I think it's just been one of those traditional things. We've always had President's Day off.
Okay.
I think it's just been following the same pattern that's been there.
Which day is that?
February 19th.
The 19th. Yeah.
I think some of that segues to, I mean, obviously, we don't necessarily build the entire yearly calendar around activities, but that's pretty traditionally that district tournament weekend as well. So we're pretty much at tournament from Wednesday on, or it's pretty busy. So we've always, I mean, at the 9 years I've been here, we've had that following Monday off, and that's kind of been nice for coaches and kids and everybody at the high school level involved in those kinds of things. Just food for thought.
I was just curious.
No, good to be curious. And that does, when you look at that January 15th day, that January 19th, that's the day we're talking about where we host the big, you know, BC wrestling tournaments that Friday and Saturday. So it would be the same that it did this year, only we're a year plus ahead of the game, knowing that we're only going to do 3 days that week. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, great job putting this together to the team. I can tell that, I can only imagine the difference in opinions that came that first front. So great job on leading the charge to get us to this. I do appreciate the adhering to the end of May, do not cross boundary, because I think with this community, it's very important that summer starts in June. I know I have family members that we just were with this past week that they go to school in Washington State, and they go to school clear into the third week of June, and it's painful for those kids and families to do summer functions and whatnot. So great job on that. The only comment just moving forward is teachers really encourage you to be thinking outside the box when you start looking at your younger kids, especially going into those longer days, and what to do to keep them energized and brains refreshed. I know with my girls, they tend to get really tired at about 3 o'clock. So I know you're all tracking, but it's gonna take some extra thought to get them through and whatnot for all our kids. So just keep that in mind as we move forward towards this process. So that's all I have.
Yeah, just a thank you as well. I can't imagine how difficult it is to meld all those things together. So thank you guys for doing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
The only question I have is it is truly a consensus committee, so you guys wouldn't have left your proposal without everybody's consensus?
correct, yes, and I think all, a lot of different teachers put in a lot of time in trying to just do those things and look outside the box, and this was actually a late entry, I think, that some teachers came up with, and, you know,
There's a
one
lot
of
of
those things that, wow, it's, yeah, I guess it goes to show how good, some more sets of eyes work wonders, so it was truly a team effort, I think, this time, so.
What does the lunch break for the kids look like? I see the teachers get 30 minutes. Is it the same across the board for the
No,
kids?
Teachers get more than that. During the day, that's PLC time, they get 30 minutes.
Oh, I see.
During the daytime, their lunch is same as the kids, which is 40 minutes, if they actually can get 40 minutes. I know it doesn't always happen, but there's 40 minutes allowed for it. I know it doesn't always happen that way.
Just a quick question. Trustee's used a couple of acronyms.
Oh,
Not everybody
sorry.
keeps up with acronyms.
PLC is Professional Learning Community.
Thank you.
Is that the only one?
And then the PIR is Pupil Instruction. PIR is Pupil Instruction Related.
I'll say too that, I've been on the calendar committee for a few different years. And this year, we really worked together as teachers. Like, I'm the rep for the 3-4-5, and we had a meeting, and I got everybody's point of view. I talked about it, and I took those things into account. I know, same thing with lower grades, same thing with elementary or high school, same thing with middle school. So I think that's why our meeting went quicker too, because we definitely took all those aspects prior to, we had meetings before the meeting and after the meeting.
Kind of what we do in schools.
Meetings for the meetings.
Not the meeting.
Meeting.
No, we really appreciate all the effort that the staff put into it. It did make for a much less painful process, from my vantage point.
And the classified staff was also a part of that team, which has not always been the case. So we were trying to be all encompassing.
Yep, no, I appreciate the collaboration on all levels of that, and I think it seems like a very workable solution. Again, want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to take a look at it, give it some thought over the next couple of weeks. The goal will be to approve this calendar unless there are changes that do come up in the meantime at the regular June board meeting, if everything else comes into line as well. So if there's no further questions, we will.
I just have one question on the teacher's hours. I assume that's probably pretty comparable to other years' work. I know that was a concern for me today. They would have to work less, which I know isn't the case, but I was just curious. The 1,400 is similar.
Yeah.
That's their norm, yes.
It's the same.
Yeah, which was one of the goals.
Right.
Yes, to keep that.
And same with classified staff, speaking for the classified union, we wanted to make sure that all of our staff members were getting the same amount of hours, and I think we've come to an agreement with the board that they will be able to.
Yeah, there's going to be some more flexibility with, those staff members that work on an hourly basis. Some will work some of their hours on Fridays, some won't, but we will do our best and to keep everybody's hours and therefore their pay at the same level that they were. Okay, well, thank you very much. We will move on. So we have to make a formal declaration of the vacancy that was left by the resignation at the May meeting from Dr. Scott. From there, we have to move on and define the process of how we will move forward to fill that vacancy. With the recent adoption of our new school policies, that process is pretty clearly outlined in that. And that's something that we will continue to follow. So tonight is about the declaration of that vacancy, and we will post the notice of that vacancy both on the website, and we will get it out in the newspapers to make that very evident that that position is vacant and that we will move to appoint a trustee. At this point, we will solicit letters of interest from anybody, within the community. It does not have to be anybody that was on the ballot. Anybody can submit a letter of interest to fill that position. We are going to open that for basically 2 weeks. So on June 5th at 4 p.m., the letters of interest are due into the district office. Okay, they can be, it doesn't define how they have to get there. They can be emailed, they can be dropped off in person, but it does need to be a written letter of interest stating your name, that your interest in that position. In the meantime, if only one letter of interest was to come forward, the board would move forward and appoint that individual. Assuming there are multiple letters that come in, the board will have to conduct an interview process to be carried out in an open public meeting. So I've kind of tentatively outlined, if we have 2 to 3 letters of interest, we will probably still do that at the June meeting. If we end up with a very large number of letters of interest, we will probably call for another special meeting in between the due date of those letters and the June board meeting. Otherwise, that June meeting will just get way too long if we have to do multiple interviews that night. So as those letters come in, we will keep everyone updated on that. And by June 5th at the latest, we will know whether there will be a special meeting to conduct those interviews or whether we'll do it at the June meeting. We will need to reach out to Angie Paulson, clerk and recorder, and hopefully she will be available to come in on the June 13th meeting. Once the board has made that decision and made that appointment, we will do the swearing in of that individual, and then they will be able to take the seat at that June 13th board meeting and go to work. Any questions to that?
Can I understand correctly that you would do the interviews the 13th, make the selection in the same meeting, and then
Yep.
install that member?
Yep.
Assuming
If there's
2 to
just-
3
if there's
letters,
just
no
a
more
few.
than- Okay,
If there gets to be a very large number, then we're going
Right.
to split that up.
okay, thank you.
But yes, we can conduct the interviews. The board will ask or have some discussion based on those interviews, and we will move forward with a vote of who the board would like to appoint.
Does that fill out the rest of the term that Sean had?
Yeah, no, it's a 1 year,
Okay.
it's a 1 year appointment. They must run for reelection the following year. So, yeah, thank you for asking that. They do not get to just go the next, because Sean would have had 2 more years. So if you're appointed, you only go until the next election.
So with the elections that we just had, does that play into parking this? And why is that?
Because according to the law, the board has the ability to appoint whoever they want. And the way the policy is written, that the same follows the law. And that's why the letters of interest can come from beyond those that were already on the ballot. Those that were on the ballot are free to submit their letter as well. Any questions on that? Okay, so we will get both the vacancy notice posted and letter of interest declaration, I guess, or not define the dates the due date for the letters of interest,
Yes,
so that that gets both on the website, sent out on our social media feeds, and also in the papers as well. So
both
that-
of the
so that-
papers are holding a spot for us.
Yep, everybody
and
has an
waiting for me to
opportunity
send that tomorrow morning.
to see that. Okay? With that said, I think we're done.
Need a motion?
I don't know that we actually, it just says we have to make a declaration.
Okay.
He didn't say that we actually had to have a formal motion. So I think it just has to be declared in an open public meeting that there's a vacancy and the process in which we intend to fill it.
Okay.
Very good, meeting adjourned.
Vanessa?